Today we're doing lesson 5.2, module 5, lesson 2, and we're still talking about volume. With the quiet answer hand, what does volume mean? With the quiet answer hand. Arav?
Volume is a way to find kind of like the area for 3D structure.
Volume is kind of like the area for 3D structures. Another way to say that is volume is how much space a 3D structure takes up. Is this tape dispenser three-dimensional?
Yeah.
How many dimensions does it have? 3. That's why it's three-dimensional. It has a length. You can see how long it is. It has a width, and it has a height. Those are the 3 dimensions. Okay. Yesterday we talked about volume and how we can build volume using unit cubes, like these cubes here. Today we're still going to be finding volume, but instead of filling or building things, we're going to be seeing how many cubic units, how many of these units can fit inside. Because however much I can pack inside, is that also the volume?
Yeah.
Yes. So in this drawing right here, what I've given you is a flattened 3D figure. Do you see how there's 4 boxes shaded in right here? That would be the base. And then these 4 that are not shaded in would be folded up to be the right-hand wall. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I fold up all the edges, do you see how it would become an open box? Okay, what's missing is the top layer, right? So a flattened 3D figure like this is called a net. What is this called, everyone? Net. So if I look at this drawing of it, first of all, is this a rectangular prism? Is it 3D? Is each face a rectangle? Yeah, so it's a rectangular prism. So how many stories do you see on this rectangular prism? 1. Okay, so you can think to yourself that it has 1 in each story. And how many cubes are in each story? Well, I have a row of 4, and then behind it I have another row of 4. Do you see that? So how many cubes are in each story?
4.
How many cubes are in each story? 8 altogether. So how many blocks will it take to make this? 8 blocks. So your prediction is going to be 8. Now, use your math tools to build this prism and see if it actually took 8. Go. If I look at number 2B, if we want to make a prediction, we have to ask ourselves, how many stories do you see in that rectangular prism? 2. How many are on each floor? How many blocks are on each floor? 8. So if there's 2 stories and there's 8 on each floor, what's your prediction on how many there will be? 16 cubic centimeters. Now, build it to see if you actually used 16. It becomes a skill to look at a flattened 3D figure. What do we call a flattened 3D figure? A net. It becomes a skill to look at a net and be able to predict in your head what it will look like once it's built. Okay? So let's take a look. What part is the base? The shaded part. Okay? How many blocks are there in the shaded part? It's this part right here. How do you know there's 16? Well, we can count them, right? So the shaded part tells you how many will be in the base. How many are in the base again? 16. Okay. Now, imagine these non-shaded parts will be folded up. Yes? So they tell you how many, what? Layers or stories there will be. Looking at this over here, looking at just one wall, how many stories will there be on this one wall? 3. Right? Because there's 1, 2, and 3 stories. Do you see that? So you have to, it becomes, like I said, a skill to be able to look at a net and imagine what it will look like when it's 3D. What it's going to look like when it's 3D is it's going to have, it's going to be 3 stories high, right? And then the base is going to be 4, 2, 3, 4. Do you see how it's going to be 4 by 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that? Okay, so on one floor, on one story, how many blocks will there be? 16. On the second story, how many blocks will there be?
32.
On the second story, there's going to be 32? Another stack of 16. And on the third story, how many will there be?
16.
So looking at this net, how many blocks would it take to build it?
48.
48 blocks. So what would the volume be? 48 cubic centimeters. Very good. We can imagine, now that we've had the experience of building a net and stuffing it, packing it with cubes, we can now kind of, without having to do it, we can imagine what it would be like in our heads. Does that make sense? Now, we can only imagine it when there's these centimeter cubes. That looks like this. Can you predict how much will be in it? No. So that's my final challenge for you. I'm going to give you one net that has no centimeter guidelines on it. You're going to fold it into a cube, okay? This one actually is going to be a closed cube, but do you want it closed or do you want it open? So you're going to leave it open, and then you're going to answer each step of question number 3 in your problem set with your partner or partners.